Okay, let's see here. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey there, hi there, ho there. This is Ralph Hayes Jr., RH Jr., Reality Check, coming to you live over the internet through a series of tubes known as the Boob Tube of YouTube, bringing you another contribution to the clutter on the internet. More debris for the information highway, street litter even. A little broadcast I like to call Spleen Squeezins. Bum 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 zee ba bum bum ba bum 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 pim pim bum 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 pim 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 fibbity fibber fibum. Hey Bob, zip zip bop from it from hip dip doo zip dip doo skibbity doo 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 doo. Hey, she bump no, I can't scat worth a darn. Hello everybody. There's nobody out there. There's nobody out. Concurrent viewers, 0. It's not even counting me anymore. It's so sad. It's so sad. On the other hand, the connection's excellent. This is the first time I've started out with a broadcast with an excellent connection. I do not know what the story is. It is it's 20 minutes till 6 in the morning. It's 5:40 a.m. on a beautiful March morning. Wake up! Okay. How would you like to have that as your alarm clock? Your alarm clock. What time is it, Clark? I don't know. Have that as your alarm clock. Bobcat Goldthwait. Ah! You know. The terrifying capacity for human beings to get used to anything, man. You know, first couple of weeks you'd be like, you'd like rocket out of the bed. Then a couple of months later, you'd sleep right through a Bobcat Goldthwait alarm. Then your neighbors come and visit, they sleep over, and then they have a heart attack in the morning. Ah! What? That's just the alarm clock, man. Aye. Eh. 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 I don't know what it's doing. Okay, now according to this, I've got an excellent connection, but it's not doing anything. Sort of like the rest of my life. Sort of like the rest of okay, we got a commission. Might as well be working on that. Just gotta dig up the email, make sure I've got all the information about the. Oh, darn it! Excuse me a second. One of my bandages sliding down my leg. Okay. If that doctor sends me to the hospital, oh, this is horrible. I have a depressing feeling that he's going to look at these. They're just tiny little, little spots on my legs, but they won't heal and they leak. And I really don't want to go into details. This is it's 6 a.m. You're having breakfast probably if you're listening. Oh, unless you're in Australia and you're having dinner. I don't know. Sitting at a billabong. Having a kangaroo sandwich. I don't know. Hey, look. It's not our fault that you're stuck with the kangaroos, That's just what people know you by. But, it's just that... thanks to lymphedema, anything on my legs, any kind of injury, no matter how small, it takes forever to heal, and I usually have to end up on antibiotics, and worst of all, probably need to change that one. well, worst of all is it takes so many bandages. Uh, and worst of all, if I go to the doctor, and if he thinks it's severe enough, I've had to take intravenous antibiotics at least 3 different times over the past couple of years. I had to go into the hospital, stay there for 2 or 3 days while they pump me full of stuff just to get the stuff out of my legs. Pisses me off, It's not surprising. I live in a dump. My house is a dump. It's a pigsty. I would seriously. I'm like one car on blocks away from being on Hoarders or something. It's how ranchy it is in here. But it's a small surprise that I get infected all the time. Get these sort. When you got lymphedema, it means what lymphedema is where basically the lymphatic system. You got circulatory systems in your body. You got your blood circulatory system. You got your lymphatic system. The problem is that for some reason God decided that the blood circulatory system, would have muscles and stuff and would be able to pump the blood through by itself. But for some reason, the lymphatic system, you have to rely on, valves and passive pressure. And, well, the valves in my lymphatic system aren't working right. For some reason, the osmosis of the fluid in my legs is all one way. That's why I have to spend, that's why I'm supposed to spend so much time lying on my back with my feet elevated. But I don't. Instead, I spend most of my time sitting here in front of this computer, because I've got a bed in the back of the room, and I've got this computer here. And if I could, I would set it up so that they were together. But no, this is not happening. There's a multiplicity of reasons why I can't simply. Why don't you just set up the computer by the bed? It is for several reasons. Starting with the bed is a broken pile of junk that barely holds together, and if I tried to move it, I'm in no condition to try to move it, and if I tried to move it, it would be a pile of scrap metal. I really need a new. I need to screw it. I'd like to buy a new one of those collapsible bed frames and a mattress, and set them up in here in the living room so I don't have to, Of course, I'd also have to buy some sort of rig to set the computer up in front of the computer, or so the keyboard goes over top of the bed or something. I don't know. This computer desk is falling apart too. It's like it's almost 20 years old. And it was a piece of plyboard. It was a piece of plyboard junk when I got it, but it looks so spiffy up there in the window, And it's one of these corner desks, too. It's the kind of stuff that IKEA looks at and goes, "Oh, get that crap out of here." Now, well, you can see my problem. My basic problem is that all my life's problems come back to what I have in my bank account, and I don't have anything in my bank account that I can spare. I have a marvelous a nice big donation, but that's going to be gone as soon as I pay everybody that's supposed to be paid, and bottomless vacuum, just bottomless pit that I've got to keep throwing money into, and it's never filling up, and the level and it keeps getting deeper with each day. So okay, what was I looking for? I was looking for going to YouTube, going to my inbox in my Gmail, Getting that latest commission. Okay. Okay. Just basically a cute pic of Nip Tuck and the commissionoid. I don't know. As little kids. Documents. Let's see, commissions. There we go. Commissions, Betty Adams, Boomba Doomba, Boomba Boomba, Tobias Brown. Yeah, here we go. I don't know how I managed to get my cord for my Wacom tablet so twisted up. I just pick it up off my computer. I set it down on my computer, and yet somewhere along the way, it gets corkscrewed. I don't know. Window capture 2. There we go. Is there anybody out there? I know that this is an unusually early hour, but really, come on. There's got to be somebody awake on the planet. I'll log out of here. Let's get it for the joke, okay? Okay, I've got a bit of a tummy ache here. I'm sorry. I'm fearing experiencing a bit of a fugue moment. I don't know. I don't know what you'd call it. Okay. Double check the description of the character yet again. Double check it. Ah, poop. Just a tan wolf with glasses. Maybe big round glasses like everybody else has. I'll think about that. Quick sketch, quick sketch, quick sketch. Ticked off of this thing. It keeps switching the tools on me. When I'm working on one, I'll be using it to turn this off. I turn it back on, and even though I'll have set the tools, the damn thing will be, the eraser will be set on hard eraser. I'll turn it back on, and it'll be set on soft eraser. And I'll be working, and I'll pick up the soft eraser tool, and I'm like, crap. Click of a button to fix, but it's annoying that I have to keep fixing it again and again and again and again. Now, I've been looking at the latest version of Manga Studio 5. It's now called Clip Studio something. And from what I understand, it's a licensed program now. You have to pay every year to use it. And I'm like, no thank you, and furthermore, screw you. You thieving mongrels.
And what's really ticking me off, they got all these resources, tools and that you can download and add to the program. Many of them for free, but you have to buy their program and pay them a monthly fee to use it. You have to buy their art program first, and I'm like, when do we go? When do we go back to the idea of renting everything you own from people who made it? Apparently, there's a huge community for this art program. It's small wonder you can download tools that'll let you do anything. Tools that'll let you paint like you're on oil or canvas or watercolor. You got tools that'll let you draw trees with draw an entire forest with a stroke of a pen. And I'm not talking just little triangle shaped trees here. I'm talking real forest looking thing, and also all sorts of brush tips and textures and filters that if you can get them and you got an inkling of how to use them, it can save you hours and hours and hours and hours of time. Shoot, that's how I get. It's a lot of how a lot of the foliage gets drawn in Nip and Tuck. You look at the latest Nip and Tuck, latest couple of that color image I had posted up on the front page. Nip sitting there in his do nothing chair. Most of that was done with the grass and the trees and the clouds and everything in the sky. Just quick click button tools. Yeah. Of course, I think that most of the time you save one way, you lose in another. So, it's a I don't know if it's a gain or a loss. I don't know. Looks better at least. Well, I mean, for instance, here I've got hundreds of brushes here. Oh, that's I didn't undo that. That one's I screwed up the settings. Here's leaves. Okay, I can mess with that one. I got 3 or 4 different kinds of leaves and 3 or 4 different kinds of grass. Here's low plant leaves, grass clumps. Ta-da! Grass clumps. Ta, or short grass clump. And things for drawing birds and even feathers. And this is supposed to be ornament brush. See, ta-da! Rope. Very time saving. This is supposed to be water ripples. I have no idea how I'm supposed to use that. I've tried to, and it just doesn't seem to look right. Also got several. Come on, computer, giddy up! Ah, for crying out loud! Craps its pants. Ta-da! Blackberry vine. Also all sorts of nifty little tools out there that you can use. Here's one for trees. Yeah. Ta-da! Tree. Or wood, anyway. I don't know. Wood. When I first started drawing these characters, I started drawing Nip and Tuck. I took great pains to try and come up with ways to make them distinguishable from each other in certain ways. Like Nip's ears were more rounded, while Tuck's were more hook shaped. Like the pointed, and I would draw Tuck's nose bigger, little things like that, and everybody just looks at the hat and goes, "Oh, Tuck, he's not wearing a hat. It must be Nip." So I saved myself a lot of effort. Yeah. That's friggin'. I'm feeling kind of bad right now. There's a couple of things I've been doing trying to up my income a little. Increase my viewership and readership and all this other stuff, and it's not producing the results. It's not producing anything. And it's kind of making me want to scream. It pisses. I'm sorry. I'm also dwelling on this doctor's visit because I go through this rigmarole every time they send out vehicles to pick me up. They ask me when they call. When I call them to arrange transportation, are you going to be using a cane or a walker or a wheelchair? I wonder what the frick they'd do if I said yes. Would they actually send out a vehicle capable of carrying a handicapped person? Would they? They would be kind of be obligated to. And so they'd finally send out a vehicle that would be capable of carrying me, because I'm not registered as hand. Is there a registry or something for handicapped people? I'm effectively handicapped. I got two huge. My legs are just like two bags of watermelons because of my condition. And so I can't get into a vehicle hardly at all unless it's a great big huge thing like a van or a truck, and it's got a and I'm not telling I can't fit my legs under the dashboard of my own van. What does that tell you? I'm just old. I'm just old and sick and worn out and tired and everything that's supposed to be there to help you. We've got all these systems to help you out, and none of them help me because I'm neither fish nor fowl in so many ways. I fall through to the slots in between because I'm elderly, but I'm not elderly enough. This company over here won't send somebody over to give me a lift. If I was just I'm going to be turning 49 on Wednesday. 49 Wednesday. Wednesday. Yeah. Yeah. On Wednesday the 18th. Yep. But because I am not 11 years older than I am, because I'm not 11 years older, they won't send out a transport to me. This for the elderly. Because screw me, and it makes me angrier the more I talk about it, and the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the more I talk about it, the angrier I get. And I have insurance. My insurance is all Medicaid. And the insurance company, they have a service where they provide free transportation to your to hospital, to doctor office, that sort of thing. You have to call them 2 days ahead of time, but and they'll arrange transportation. The thing of it is that they have not been able to arrange transportation for me in the last half dozen times I've tried. What they do is they call everybody up, and then they end up calling the taxi company around here, and the taxi company does not have vehicles that can carry me. And I keep telling them this, and this is all they have. There's nothing else. Oh, they could give me a voucher. They could give me a voucher for the bus or to pay for gasoline. I'm like, good God, if I had a vehicle that I could vouch for gasoline. And there's no buses out here. There's no busing system in Marietta. It makes me want to frickin' scream. At least there's no buses that run all the way out to the Marietta Starlight Trailer Park. That's for darn sure. It ought to be a crime. I just get older and angrier and sicker. I'm sitting here wondering, every time I've called up, they've said, do you use a cane? Do you use a walker? Do you use a wheelchair? And I've said, when they're picking out, telling me they're going to send a vehicle, and I'm like, no, I don't. I could probably use a cane. I used to have a cane. I used to have a couple of canes. I lost them both. I don't know where they are. Makes me angry. Paid good money for those canes. It's a nice cane. But, if I'd have told, and it occurs to me only now, what would they have done if I'd have said yes? I'm going to, the next time I call them, next time I call the people, I'm going to ask them, what would you do if I said yes, I use a walker or wheelchair? Would you actually freaking expend some effort and send somebody out here with a vehicle that could actually transport me? Nah. Because then they'd know I was lying. My insurance, the local taxi company even has a, it's like every service that's our government, that every civic service that is provided, if you aren't fish nor fowl, they crap themselves and brain fart themselves to death. The local taxi, the taxi company, the one that provides all the transportation that I'm talking about, they still do not accept credit cards. You got to pay them in cash. They gloat about it. They got this wonderful service where they'll pick up your prescriptions for you even. But you got to pay them in cash. You got to pay them in cash. If I had frickin' cash, that means I would be able to get out, go down to the bank, get the money, the cash, to pay them for this. If I can get down to the bank to get the cash, I don't need their service. But no, they don't accept credit card. They don't accept debit card. They don't have. I even dropped this. Haven't you ever heard of PayPal? What's that? Oh, cripes. And these are the trained monkeys that are running the system around here. None of the pharmacies here deliver, obviously, and the hospitals don't. The hospitals look at you like you just sprouted a second head if you ask them if there's any way that you can get your prescription filled while you're at the hospital. Or when you're at the doctor's office, all this is doing is just cranking up my stress just a little bit every single hour between now and the time where I walk out this front door and try to climb into whatever vehicle they send for me. Because the odds are highly against me being able to climb into the thing and be able to sit. Unless they're willing to drive with the side door open, my legs dangling out. I asked them, if we informed you ahead of time, could you, you've got these vans, these they're family minivans. Minivans. Why do they get a minivan? But, they're the kind that you can pop out the center seat. You can pop out the back seat. And if you could afford that, could you pop one of those seats out so that I could climb up in there and just sit in the back? No. They can't do that either. Nobody can do nothing. We provide these guarantees, and they can't provide the services they promise. Nobody can provide the services they promise. This is why I go, don't promise anything. Wish I'd learned that a long time ago myself. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting wound up. I'm getting angry. I'm getting in this bad mental set where I try to count my blessings, but there's always something in the way. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Blah, da, 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 da. I have a doctor, a doctor who can treat my ills. Only I can't get to his office. I live in a community with marvelous medical help I'm free to go anywhere that I can get on foot, and and so on and so forth, and I've got so many problems. Just all the things that should be blessings in my life have turned into problems. It's spectacularly infuriating. And the more I sit here, the more I try to think of ways around my problems. And the more I realize how many problems I need ways around. I think that's what I'm trying to say. The odds are very, very good that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to see them out there with me. I'm going to try and climb in there. I'll probably half injure myself trying to climb into that dang vehicle. And then I'm going to have to cancel again, like before. And I'm going to have to wait until I can I'm going to have to resort to calling an ambulance and going to an ER just to deal with you. I'm going to have to wait until like my legs swell up or turn purple or something, because all these experts and geniuses and dedicated professionals can't pull their head out of their ass and find a way to get a man with swollen legs to a doctor's office and hand him some pills. I asked him, do you have some sort of shuttle at the hospital? And, no, we don't have anything like that. I could call my parents, and my parents could drive over here, and I wouldn't be able to fit in their vehicle either. I'm not kidding you. I cannot fit in anything. I'm telling you, you need a full size, at least a full size van, the kind that has two or three rows of seats, and probably one of the seats has to be pulled out so that I can climb up in. Getting me on an ambulance is an ordeal because they have to run straps around my legs to keep me from falling off, keep them from falling off of the gurney. The gurney is not built for somebody my size. It never is. Screw you. We live in a nation full of thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are, supposedly suffering from obesity, but nothing is built to do. They talk about, this medical crisis about how many, horrendously fat or deformed or malformed people are out there. They need, and they need medical care, but nothing's being built in case they actually need any. Is it any wonder that a fat person feels like a freak of nature, like some horrid monstrosity? And most of it, I'm fat. Even without my leg condition, I'm fat. But I've got at least 100, 200 pounds of fluid in my legs. I'm just looking at them. My legs are about the size of two fairly good-sized toddlers. It's horrifying, and I get on the phone with these people, and I beg them for, send me something. I need to go to I just need to go to a doctor and get a prescription. I need to go to the doctor. I need to go to the pharmacy. I need to go. It just drives me to screaming fury that they've got all these systems for for the sick and the elderly, and they never seem to remember that they're for the sick and the elderly. It's like having people. It's like some asshole comes into your house and redesigns everything for the handicapped person. For the person, suppose you lived in a wheelchair, these assholes would come in and rebuild your house and put everything up on shelves up near the ceiling. That's how they'd solve the problems for you. All you have to do is hop the bus and ride on. What bus? Well, you can order a taxi. I can't fit in a taxi. Well, hospitals usually have a shuttle service for the yeah. There's a shuttle service for the elderly. The problem is, for the elderly and the handicapped, you have to be at least 60 years old for them to even look at you. To even permit you on board. Because, only 60-year-old, up until you're 59, you're indestructible, apparently. I'm going into I'm turning into a screaming nutcase. I've already got a prescription for a medicine sitting in Walmart right now. It's the prescription is it's in their computer, but I can't get it filled because I can't get to the hospital. I can't get to the Walmart to ask them to fill it for me. I can call them and ask them to fill it, but I have no way to have somebody pick it up. Why? Because the only people who will, pick up stuff for other people want to be paid in cash. They apparently think that the elderly and crippled have bags of money stuffed in their mattress or something. want to find the guy that runs this thing. I want to find the guy that runs and owns the taxi service and just beat him with a stick until all the stupid comes out.
Oh yes, we can run a service down there, but you will have to pay in cash.
If I was able to go out and and get cash, I wouldn't need your service. I can't even get to the bank. How am I supposed to get give you this, get you this money, huh? All I want to do is pick up some medicine. All I want to do is go to the doctor. It just pisses me off. I get there, his office is on the second floor. Thanks, Doc. I love visiting with this guy too. You really need to. You're really fat. Thank you. I didn't notice. It somehow escaped my attention for the past 20 years that I'm fat. Oh, I tell you what. I'll just go out and jog a few miles. It's fun being told that you need to go on a diet when one of my concerns up until fairly recently was the concern of how I was going to get groceries to my house. It's only by the almighty mercy and grace of God that I found a grocery store that does what all these other multi-billion-dollar corporation mogul bastards brag about doing everywhere else. One store in the entire area, in this entire area, that delivers groceries. Warren's IGA. Long may they fly, because doggone, they're the only one that even, it just, Kroger's, they got and don't talk to me about these meals, these companies that what are they? It is these companies that pick up food for you from restaurants and stuff and deliver it. What is it? U Food or something? I can't remember. It's but skipped a groove. My memory skipped a groove. But they just no. I just for curious. I tried to I hunted through all it's like half a dozen different meal deliveries. Fast food delivery services. The U meal or. I forget it anyway. Anyway, there's a Chinese place, and finally I found a service that works in this area, and will pick up food at a restaurant. And lo and behold, I go through the system, I ring it up. I just wanted an order of General Tso's chicken. Some General Tso's chicken. And the bill came to nearly $50. I could say something incredibly crass right now about what I'd expect the delivery person to do for me for that much money. No. We're just, who are you idiots that are they're catering the takeaway service? Good night. They're taking you to the cleaners for $50. I could buy a couple of weeks worth of groceries. I don't need Kentucky Fried Chicken that bad. Nobody needs Kentucky Fried Chicken that bad. How in God's name? How I'm sorry, they don't even have to cook the food. All they have to do is deliver it. So and delivery places, pizza places, what do they charge? $5-10 extra on the price of for just to deliver, for the delivery. If they're charging more than $10 to pick something up and deliver it to you, you're being hosed. Okay? Good night. Like, not for me, not for me. Nothing's for me. I just get angry and angry and angrier the more I think about all this, because you got all these companies and all these people and all these services and all these offices and all these places, they make all sorts of promises and offer all sorts of services, except here, except to me, except for my circumstances. It's always like that. I'm always, for some reason, I am always the exception to the rule. That the customer needs to be, the customer's always, just never. You have to lose a bet with God to have this kind of luck. I swear. Any other person, if they look down, oh, I've got an injury on my leg, it looks infected. I just need to go down to the, I just need to go down to the doctor. I need to go down to the hospital. I need to go to, to the clinic. No problem. Me, it takes an act of Congress and threats with gunfire to get anybody to, to get the people that are supposed to be off their duff to work something out. I can't imagine how much money they've had to spend on hospital ambulances, just to get me to the hospital for these problems, because I try and call them get transportation, and they can't seem to get their head out of their ass long enough to get me to a hospital. I had to, when I had the kidney stone problem, I missed I missed a couple of operation dates because they couldn't pull their head out of their ass long enough to listen to me when I said, no, I cannot fit in a little bitty taxi cab. I can't fit in a regular car anymore. My legs are morbidly deformed. I weigh over 400 pounds. My legs are morbidly deformed, and I cannot fit in a regular car. And so what do? I was supposed to go. I was supposed to take an hours long trip to Columbus for this operation. I was going to be riding in one of the taxi cab, basically, and they send it out. It was a great big huge guy in a regular car. I couldn't even get in the door of his vehicle. Because he was big and fat. I'm big, fat, and malformed. My legs will not fit between that little tiny space between the front seat and the back seat, and between the dashboard and the front seat. That's too tiny for my legs. I literally could fit. I literally, pushing the seat all the way back, the passenger seat all the way back, I could fit one leg in the car at a time, unless I was willing to run alongside the car, hopping on one foot the entire way to Columbus. There was no way I was going to get in that car. I called him up. Well, he weighs over 400 pounds, and his car is perfect. Yes, but he doesn't have legs like an elephant. But no, they wouldn't listen, and they won't do anything. They won't do anything. And they will do everything in their power to keep from doing even the simplest things. I shouldn't have to wait. My legs got. I've got a problem with my legs. It looks like lymphedema again. It looks like edema again. There's a couple of conditions that keep cropping up with this lymphatic condition of mine, and and it looks like another round of infection, another round of infection, and just getting to the doctor. It drives me crazy that I have to keep, just to get a prescription for regular medicine that any civilized medical system would realize, this guy is going to be taking this stuff for the rest of his freaking life. Set him up for a regular, set him up with a permanent prescription. No, not in this system. I go through this rigmarole every time, and they'll spring for a few weeks worth of bandages and bandage treatments and ointments and stuff to go along with whatever I'm taking, and of course that eventually runs out, and I have to go back hat in hand again. I'm sitting here with maxi pads taped to my legs, okay? Strapped to my legs with ace bandages, and that's my bandage, and that's the extent of the treatment I am capable of at home for my own legs, because I can't get to the doctor or the pharmacy, and all the medications that would be that are routine for treating this. Antibiotics, extra strength zinc ointments, and all this other stuff. They cost a fortune, or they're prescription only. What does it take? What kind of act of God does it take to get a medical care professional to sit down and say, this guy, they've already told me this is not a curable condition, okay? It's barely a treatable one. There's nothing they can do for me except keep writing out these prescriptions over and over and over again. I have to go, and what is this whole prescription thing about? Is basically the government coming in saying I have to play Mommy May I every time I need a refill. Whether we're talking bandages or Silver Cell or any of the other dozens of things that they've slathered onto my legs or popped into a pill bottle for me. Because why does the system exist? Because some sanctimonious busybody bastard in legislation turned around and decided that he wants to make sure that nobody's out there you know you know conning the doctors and reselling these pills for money. Oh yeah, I know there's a big black market out there for ace bandages and zinc ointment. Whenever a politician tells you something's to protect you, don't take it. Don't believe it for a minute. It's not to protect you; it's to control you. It's to take away your freedom of action. Here, I'm still going through the process of applying for Social Security. By the way, I apparently got to prove that I am poor and disabled before they'll let me have some of the money back that they confiscated me over the course of my working life. I've had to, I've tried to reach out and get to know my neighbors and try and, but no, it's not happening. And they want nothing to do with me. I don't want anything to do with them. But I'd like to get to know them better, some of them at least. But it wasn't all that long ago. I was back knocking on their doors, asking if I could talk them into mowing my lawn for a few bucks. And then I find out, oh no, my nephew or grandson or granddaughter or niece or whatever, whoever was mowing my lawn that week, just moved away, or so and so has quit doing that, or well, you know how it goes. And, I'm gonna ask my neighbor if I can talk him into if I paid him if I paid him a few bucks whenever he mows my lawn, whenever if I could pay the guy a few bucks, 10, 20 bucks, if he'd whenever he mows his lawn, if he'd roll his mower over here and mow mine. Because I hate 60 the only lawn care service company in this area that will even touch this area charges $60 every time they mow. $60. And the fewest times that they mow twice a month, that's $120 a month just to keep this raggedy ass trailer park patch mowed. You wonder why I'm struggling to make ends meet? There you go. There's one reason. But no, I can't. You can't hunt down anybody who will mow a lawn and who is no. I asked my next door neighbor if he once he said, if I paid you a few bucks, would you mow my lawn? You're out there mowing the lawn today. If I paid you a few more bucks, could I talk you into mowing mine? So I ain't got time for that. I just stopped in long enough to mow her lawn, and then I'm gonna be gone. What am I supposed to do? My parents are in their 70s now. What am I supposed to do? Call, they're the only people living in this area, that aren't, I'm not about to call, good grief. What am I supposed to do? Call my parents over? My dad over. Hey, Dad, you come over alone? No, it's. I was supposed to grow up and be successful and take care of them, and I can't even take care of myself. I don't know how bad I'm going to lose it if I can't get in that van on Tuesday. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? As soon as it's daylight, I'm going to call my insurance company. I'm going to straight up ask, I need transportation for such and such a day. Can you give me transportation? And then when they get to the part where they ask if I'm going to be, am I going to be with another person? Am I going to need am I going to be using a wheelchair or anything like that? I'm going to say, let's pretend I am. I'm going to lie. I'm going to have to lie to get my insurance company to provide me the transport that they promise. Welcome to hell! To all of those of you out there, fellow Christians, I'd like to apologize for my language, but I'm not going to. Because 99.9% of all the fuss people make about, language, it has nothing to do with religious or biblical principles and everything to do with social taboos for dirty words. And it's ridiculous. To not use the Lord's name in vain is one thing. But, get off, get down off the cross, we need the wood. You're not being killed by somebody saying, damn. You're not being... your ears are not going to explode if you hear the word shit or fuck. I'm sorry, if you go back 100, 200 years, the Victorian era, they literally had so many euphemisms for a woman's anatomical parts. You could literally not say a paragraph in the English language without inadvertently using at least two of them. I'm sorry. It's stupid. It's stupid, okay? It was always stupid. It always will be stupid. Okay, you can say, Christians are allowed to say poo-poo. They're allowed to say caca. They're allowed to say doo-doo, feces, plop. But, oh, mercy, he said shit. That's stupid. It's the same thing. What, do you think you're going to get to heaven and get a gold star stuck into your forehead for you speaking in code? I'm inclined to partially agree, at least, with the word fuck being a taboo word. Because I think ironically, the reason we overuse it is because it's a taboo word. It's used for everything. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective. It's the whole English language in one word. I remember this children's story. There's a book is supposed to be Saturday morning special. They made an animated version of the book, and it was the land of Og, where these these goblin-like creatures lived, and these children stumbled across it, and everybody there spoke the language of Og, which was just one word, Og. Og, 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 Og. And the way the word the F word, did I spare your feelings? The way the word fuck has been used as basically I mean, can you imagine that? Welcome to the wonderful land of fuck, 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 fuckity, fuck, 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 fuck. This is me snapping. There's actually a book out there. People, a guy wrote a book. He complained about how uptight Christians were. He wrote a book. He said Jesus farted. And I realized, he's like, well, yeah. And some people call the word fart. I mean, I got, what's his name? The angry, bald, bearded atheist comedian who died a while back. Chris Charles something. But he made a point. Just real fun growing up. You come into the world and they tell you, oh, by the way, there's a few thousand words there's an entire list of words you're not allowed to use. Oh, really? What are they? We're not telling them. We're not telling you. You're just going to have to figure it out yourself. Oh, well, damn it. What? Modern languages confuse the meaning of using foul. They've confused the terminology. They've confused using taboo words with the concept of cursing and swearing. Cursing and swearing were a thing, a separate concept. When you back in the day, back in the Bible, when you cursed. You were actually just about basically doing the equivalent of casting a malevolent spell on someone, almost essentially. May your armpits be infested with the fleas of 1,000 camels. Yeah. That was cursing, and swearing was to give an oath that as I so swear before as God is my witness, such and such and such and such. So when did that change to smacking your thumb with a hammer and shouting shit? I don't know. People, what do I know? I don't know nothing. Of course, I don't know nothing. Yeah. Yeah, I can't have any. To the day we both die, I'm not going to be able to have any kind of serious discussion with my father on anything, because I don't care. Till the day I die, he could live to be 120, and I could live to be 100, and I forget how old was he when I was born. Well, you get the idea. He could live to his 120s, and I could live to be 100, and he would still see me as the 6-year-old kid who thought dogs reproduced by pollinating. Well, no, actually, I was older than something like 10 or 11. Hey, my sex ed was not, shall we say, early. Dad was of the belief, he was going to teach, he taught us he taught us the facts of life, and Mom taught Debbie my sister, the facts of life. He taught me, Dad taught me the facts of life and all that. But he basically waited until I was old enough to embarrass myself without realizing it. Thank you, Dad. That's greatly appreciated. Somebody explained to me when we got terrified of telling our kids how sex worked until they were, why do we wait until the bomb, why do we wait until the grenade pin has been pulled before we say anything? I'm sorry. I mean, I was astonished to hear people who taught their kids at the age of like 5 or 6, and then I realized, my good grief, you had kids that grew up on a farm and saw animals going out and figured it out they figured it out pretty quickly. This didn't destroy their innocence, as we like to think. Children have always been children. But and some of these people, they're in ancient times, the living habits meant that not much privacy, to put it mildly. But anyway, that's pretty much everybody grew up around livestock and horny farmhands, and that didn't come out the way I thought. That sounds worse than I thought it did. That sounds so much worse than what I intended to mean. No, I mean, that's just backtracking. I'm not saying that the men were men and the sheep were desperate. I'm not saying that. Just no, no. That was not what I meant. I mean, oh, that's awful. That was terrible. But what I meant is that, I mean, these kids, if they didn't see the livestock producing more livestock, they eventually stumbled in on an older brother or sister or a couple of randy farm hands or what have you. We didn't. Very few people lived in an insulated world. Let's put it that way. So for kindergarten cop time. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. We got it out of the way. The world did not end if Junior learned of the basics of sex before puberty started stalking him. A little advance warning probably would have been appreciated for most of it. I'm sorry, you got kids out there. You got actual adults out there that don't know how to have sex. There's a little married couple that came in. I've heard this. It's true. There were from time to time a married couple come in. They were so devoutly raised that they were never told the facts of life, and they had no idea that all they knew about babies was that you got in bed together. And we've been sleeping together for years and nothing's happened. And it finally dawned on their physician to ask them, have you had sex? What do you do when you have sex? And the guy says, what's sex? Like, OMG. You've had these women that have they've had babies, didn't know they were pregnant, and gave birth. Okay, yeah, so you can kind of see the point of the people that wanted to add sex education to the public education system. Let's point out the obvious, though, that their supposed excuse, this will help prevent unwanted pregnancy. No, it didn't. If anything, the pregnancy rate went whoosh, through the roof. Why? Because they were getting, they were getting us, values-free sex ed, basically. But you bring this up, and they go, oh well, you want abstinence only teaching. Well, basically yes. Well, the thing of it is, when they talk about abstinence teaching, this is a misrepresentation. I'm sure that there are abstinence only courses out there, but what they don't like is that the abstinence first teaching. I'm sorry. What is abstinence? 100% effective? Hello. Well, 99.9999999. Unless you're Mary and you're on your way to Bethlehem, shut up. It works. This is the problem: is that they approach. You can't teach sex without teaching the morals and ethics behind it. There's, hello, you have sex, there are serious consequences, even if you manage to get away with it. And that's the problem with it. What they don't want sex ed in the school. What they want is to go, how can I still do this and get away with it? That's the clinical motivation. They want to, this is how you can do it and get away with it. That's what it boils down to, whether or not they intend it. Whether or not they meant to do that or not. You have to make a values call. It has to be a value. You have to make a value judgment about sex. Either it matters or it doesn't. I'm going to go with it matters. Now, people that treat sex as if it was, you can't treat sex as if it is a values neutral choice. It's not. There are consequences to it. Even if you manage to get through it without getting a disease or getting pregnant or getting someone else pregnant. Because you think about it, you think you managed to get through. I had sex and I didn't get pregnant. I had sex and I didn't get a venereal disease. Well, congratulations, you dodged the bullet this time. How long before you decide to play Russian roulette again? I don't know about you, but if I start having sex, I don't want to stop having sex again. Can you dig it? And you're not going. Once you've started, you're not liable to stop. And every time you do, click, click, click. The trigger on the gun you're playing Russian roulette with goes around one more time. Sooner or later, the odds catch up with you. That's even if you use all the magical medical miracles of the modern day. You see, I remember what they're lying. You see these, 98% prevention of pregnancy. No, it's a lie. I know that's a lie because I took the health courses too, kids. I used to work in a pharmacy too, and I used to read the information right off the packages, and that came, and the stuff that they put in the packages with the condoms and stuff. No, in fact, the failure rate for condoms is something like 15%. Real world. These low numbers they give, these absolutely are for laboratory conditions. Now, unless you and your girlfriend are bumping uglies in a sterile white room, you are not using these things under laboratory conditions. That's the problem. Is that as long as you use them properly, the condoms will prevent this. There will be fewer than 5%. Cases of pregnancy. The problem is that in order to use them properly, you basically have to be in a sterile laboratory situation. People walking around in hazmat suits while and bring you the rubber in a hermetically sealed tray. See, they're made of latex. Okay. There are some drawbacks to latex, like heat and cold, and just time. Latex corrodes. Well, one of the things they don't tell you is that they used to tell you, oh, this is urban myth. It's true. They just don't like to tell anybody about it anymore. Is that you see latex on a condom is basically a mesh weave, and the mesh is several thousand times larger than the virus, than the HIV virus, for example. They don't know for a fact that condoms prevent venereal disease. They can't test it. To test a condom to see, they would have to laboratory test, double blind test it, and they would have to have several people with the disease engaging in coitus using these condoms as part of a double blind test. In case you haven't figured it out, the medical ethics of the idea is untenable. So they can't really test them to know how effective they are, and they don't really know how effective. I'm sorry. In order for you to believe that a condom is an effective barrier against disease, means that it requires you to believe that the dick and the vagina are the only parts of the body that are going to come into physical contact in the entire time you're having sex. And it doesn't take a porn star to tell you. Sex is wet and messy and sloppy, and fluids get everywhere, with or without a condom. That's like trying to. That's like standing in a monsoon with nothing on but a with no rain protection. It's a little rubber hat. One of those stupid little umbrella hats on. I'll be perfectly dry. Actually, the pregnancy rate. This was printed on the package. It used to be. You can call me a liar if you want, but I'm not the one being stupid enough to play Russian roulette with my dick, now am I? The failure rate is 15%, which is just between 1 in 7 and 1 in 6. And the problem is that risky behavior. I forget the term for the psychological fact. When people disproportionately increase risky behavior every time you introduce a safety feature, because people are insufferable idiots. Human, is one of the things. This is one of the reasons engineers hate humanity. Because every time you add a safety feature, the risky behavior goes up. You hand somebody a condom, you hand a child. These people, they taking these kids who they would not trust to drive a car, handing them a condom and saying, "Go have fun." Great. Let's pretend that the condom reduces your chances of getting a disease or getting someone pregnant to like 5%. So great. So long as you only have sex 20 times in your entire life, you're safe. But that's not likely to happen. You hand somebody a box of Magnums, they're going to be determined to use them up before the end of the holidays. Safe sex was never an answer. It was an excuse. We're being safe. My favorite period, one of my favorite periods, showed two comics. Was a political comic. Showed two wasted junkies in a park. One of them's passing the needle over to the guy next to him. He says, "Hey, don't worry, it's safe. I'm wearing a condom." There's always a judgment call to be made. There's always a price to be paid. But that's the problem with the entire educational system, is that a great deal of it is founded upon the principles that they want the younger generation to reject the values of the old one. It's a stated objective. And I'm not just talking. We want to teach these children not to be racist or sexist like they want them to reject the values of their forefathers. You need to find out things for yourself. The director, they want children. First off, they come into school. The first thing they've been taught for the last 100 years in their science class is that their parents are idiots for believing in God, and that's being taught as a science class. Oh, we know now that men came from monkeys. To summarize. Your parents are just old. They don't know better. And they say that the same thing about all the other values that the teachers don't approve of. And with increasing regularity, the values they don't like are the ones that parents tend to have. Oh, well, they're not enlightened about homosexuality like we are. Oh, they're not progressive like we are. They're just Islamophobic because they they believe in God. Oh well, I had a teacher that literally ridiculed my baby sister in front of her and one other little boy because they. She asked the class, how many think that the earth was formed this way and how many think it was formed that way? What? You think God just made it? And she basically mocked them for believing that the world was created rather than just happened. We must never, ever, ever doubt what we have no proof about. I'm sorry, the evolutionists is basically touting their triumphalism over believing something that they cannot possibly prove in the so-called scientific manner. There's no way that they can conduct any experiment or a series of experiments in a laboratory to recreate the phenomenon of life, the universe, and everything. In a way, they can't. Evolution is basically an untestable hypothesis. How there's no way you can test a theory about how everything happened by accident. Darwin's little legacy was the most unscientific process I've ever seen in my life. Think about it. He conducted no experiments. And I'm sorry, experimentation is the core of science. It is the scientific method. What was Darwin's method? Take an island cruise, stare at some turtles, write a book, big question mark, ta-da, science! He looked at a bunch of finches and some turtles and made up a just so story how they might have gotten that way. Just pulled it out of his ass. Wrote a book about it, and everybody back there just gobbled it up like an eclair. And the funny thing is it wasn't the scientific community that adopted him first. It was generally a lot of the more pop culture theologians of the time. Because this whole idea of science and the Bible being incompatible. The Bible isn't scientific, and was just getting rolling in a big way. And coming up with this theory of creation that didn't sound as so silly as the one in Genesis, was just right up their alley. And thus the first church of Whoopsie Doodle was born. That's why I call evolutionism the first church of Whoopsie Doodle, where you believe phenomenon that we cannot recreate with all the best minds in the world in a laboratory supposedly happened by accident, created by forces we wouldn't trust to put together a jigsaw puzzle. That's science. What evidence do they have? Well, they look at the universe, and they look at it through the evolutionary lens. If they can't make up, if evolutionary, if the evolution story, if the material evidence doesn't fit the narrative, they tweak the narrative, not changing the end result. Of course not. And they talk about how theologians chase an invisible spaghetti monster. You know, what was it? No, what is it? Invisible flying spaghetti monster? Yeah, that's how they got it. And I don't care about I've never met an atheist. I've never seen an atheist that wasn't a smug asshole. That's just personal experience talking there. I don't apologize for saying it either.
Oh, well, I'm not an atheist. I'm an atheist.
Now, I've noticed the atheist, the quote atheists who have at least manners are the ones that say, well, at least who are actually the ones who are willing to to listen and to entertain the theories that the creationists put forward. Well, not the theories, the hypotheses and the evidence and the arguments. There's a difference between an agnostic and an atheist. Most of the people that call themselves atheists nowadays would be called agnostic in a past time. What are you going to do? I've come to the basic conclusion. I believe in creation. I believe in intelligent design. I believe in creationism, and I believe the Bible and Jesus and everything he had to say about it. For a multiplicity of reasons, I am, by the standards of the vast majority of history and world civilization, I'm a fairly well-educated man. You take an average man. That's not. That doesn't sound like a very hard bar. I'm Joe Sixpack by today's standards, but Joe Sixpack has a better grasp of things like science and physics and engineering and chemistry and a few thousand other fields than somebody from, say, 500 years ago. So over the large curve of the Earth, you know, we're cutting a fairly good average. Let's just put it that way. And I'm a fairly decent guy. I've got a full course of regular public education, a year of college, and I'm very well read. I was raised by a very well read man, a man who has a doctorate in theology, taught himself Greek and Hebrew, taught himself how to play several musical instruments, ranging from piano, organ, keyboard, violin, guitar, mandolin. I'm not joking, these are all instruments my father plays. Or he used to play. His hands probably hurt him too much to play the guitar anymore, which is a pity. And he has a doctorate in theology, so, you know. So basically, I'm no potato here. And I have looked at the evidence, and I've looked at the scientific arguments, and I've looked at the material evidence, and the evidence is that, hey, sorry, but the universe is just a little too darned orderly to be an accident. Life is too complex. The simplest strand of DNA known to man that comes from nature is more complex than the most advanced computer system that he's ever designed. And every time they go back and look at the DNA again, they find out that there's more information in there than they thought. You remember hearing about this? They like to talk about all this supposed junk DNA. Oh, well, most of the DNA well, guess what? Most of the DNA is just leftovers, from evolution. Right? Yes, that fits with our narrative. But guess what? They found out recently. Surprise! All that supposed junk DNA serves. It's working DNA too. What's more, they've discovered that there are at least 2 or 3 layers to the encoding of data in DNA. I can't explain the details anymore, but they found out that there's secondary code laced in between the code they've already looked at. It literally gets more complex the more they look at it. But their own laws of physics say there's no possible way for random matter to come together into a more organized, data-filled form. It's no. Information does not arise by randomness. That's law of entropy in a nutshell. And what they have in a single human cell is the equivalent of every library man has ever written. They think that happened by accident because they'd rather believe that than face up to the fact that there is something more almighty than themselves. And I believe that that creator is Jehovah God, and that his son Jesus Christ came to the earth, died, was born of a virgin, died, and was buried and rose again. And why do I believe that? Because of a very, very fundamental assumption. Ironically, it comes back to scientific experimentation. You know what a falsifiable experiment is? It's the only valid kind of experiment you can have. A falsifiable experiment is an experiment that the results can prove false. Or rather to say that it has 2 outcomes, true or false. If you write up an experiment that only has one answer, You haven't got an experiment. You've just got an ego stroke. If you know let's start with the most the biggest and most obvious and blatant one. Let's say the world is round. Suppose I make the hypothesis the world is round. I have to devise an experiment to prove that I have to devise an experiment to test that theory. And the experiment has to be designed in such a way that it is possible to get an answer I don't like, basically. You know, there are several evidences that you can name, and there's also an experiment that you conduct. It involves the shadows and in different cities and a lot of math, and I really don't want to go into that because I'm lazy. But Darwin's theory, and evolution as a whole, is an unfalsifiable hypothesis. There's no feasible experiment you can conduct. And in fact, you try and conduct an experiment, show that the theories of evolution are bunkum, and you run the experiment, and the only two answers they accept are C, evolution, or A, evolution, B, evolution, or C. Oh, we got it wrong. It must be a different kind of evolution. Christianity. Jesus and his followers, they made the most outrageous claim of all time, that Jesus was God and that he would rise again from the dead. That was the whole point of the crucifixion and of everything that happened after it. His enemies, a hostile witness if you ever had one, his enemies were determined to prove him false. That was their objective. That's why they sealed him in the tomb. That's why they had the guards posted. That's why they were going to come back 3 days later, drag the body out, and say, see? They had every motivation in the world. Nothing in the world would have stopped them from doing that. Nothing in the world except no body. Many of those involved in this little experiment were obligated to carry it out on the pain of their own death. Breaking the seal on the tomb was a death sentence. For the soldiers to abandon their post or to allow anybody to approach the tomb was a death sentence. $2,000 and countless thousands of people seething with hate for the gospel of Christ have striven to erase his followers from the earth and to blot out his message forever. But they are stymied every single time with the same problem. They still haven't found the body. And they darn well knew where it was supposed to be. If anything Jesus had said about Christianity and about himself had been false, Christianity would have ceased to exist on the first Easter morning. Boom, poof, gone. They would have paraded his body through the streets of Jerusalem. Everything he said would have been abandoned as a lie. So, yeah, case closed. I don't expect it to persuade anybody else. Certainly not any YouTube atheist. Somebody who's literally dedicated their lives and their entire career on the internet to mocking and deriding and, you know, showing up creationists. I'm only here to bear witness. I'm not here to pound the truth into their heads with a mallet. It's not my job to jump over the it's my job to get up on in the witness stand, give my testimony, and then get back down. It's not my job to jump over the rail, grab one of the jurors by the scruff of the neck, and smack him around the head until the stupid comes out. I'm not there to lecture the judge until he agrees with me. They've been told where the fire exit is. If they won't get out, nothing I can do. I'm too fat to carry anybody but myself out the door. And even then, I'd only get out without his help. That is, I only get, you know, only by the grace of God, you know, because Jesus knows I certainly don't deserve it. I'm a very angry and tired and frustrated man. Very worried man, and I've got a lot of things that just just my faith has crumbled in many regards. Big old feet. Them feet's too big. Can't love because your feet's too big. Can't want you because your feet's too big. Can't love because your feet's too big. Oh man, it looks like it's looking like Disney is getting seriously walloped. Disney Corporation. Uh, they're going to have to close their parks for a couple of weeks and all their cruise ships and everything else. They're basically shutting down for a couple of weeks, just trying to clean everything up, fix everything on it, and oh man, it's a mess. What's his name? Their CEO just quit, and they had to just out of the blue he quit. Just he, he did everything short except walking in, mooning everybody at the desk, and walking out. He's just boom, gone, no warning. And it gets the parks are getting walloped because of the coronavirus. Yes, I said the C word. You know, cry me a river. But and they're getting walloped for a bunch of other reasons. They went. They've been taking. They're getting woke with all their old. That's the reason they're doing all these remakes and reboots and everything of all their old classic movies. They're getting woke with them all. They want to insert some girl power and some gay pride. And it's killing it because people are sick of it. They're even the people that agree with it. Even the people that are all for these SJW values are sick of trying to go into a movie theater, watch a movie, and here come the snowflakes with the Sermon on the Mount. And Disney spent a huge amounts of money right now. They bought up Marvel Comics. They bought up Marvel Comics. They bought up Star Wars. And in both cases, they don't know what to do with either of them. They're just a bunch of clueless schmucks. And so what they did is they feminazied everything up, and it's killing them. It's just everything is going up in flames. Dumpster fire city. Making any more forecasts. The forecast is for fire alarms in hell. And it's taking them right in the teeth. They're hemorrhaging money. Like I said last time, this their latest movie, the Pixar movie, the Golden Goose, and now that they've got Pixar back, they're pushing Pixar. Come on, more, and start spitting more stuff out, and then they're demanding that they social justice it up too. They, this their latest movie, Onward, fantasy, modern fantasy setting, very sort of thing. I would have gone for it, but out of the blue, they shoehorned in a lesbian character. It wasn't even a main character. It wasn't even part of the story. It was just a two-bit character that suddenly had to have some lines about her girlfriend and their children. And that sounds trivial. That sounds trivial. It's well, you're flipping out over an ad lib. You got to understand, this isn't an ad lib. This is an animated movie. Okay, an animated movie, and it's a CGI animated movie, which means they had to write this into the script, pick out an actress for this minor character to suddenly have a voice. They had to film. They had to record the voice acting. They had to, they had to have artists sketch out the scene, and then they had to put it on the computer. They had to animate it, and they had to color and tween it and tween it and tweak it and tweak a leak it, and I don't know what all they did, but they had to, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours just to add this little pinch of incense they were going to burn to the great holy lords of the She-Ra feminist movement. And it jumped up and bit them right in the bollocks. I mean, Rottweiler to the crotch. Narf! Narf! Arr, 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 arr. Because not only people, some conservative Christian women got together. They had a something. They had just a huge online protest by Christian mothers. Why did you cram this crap in here? Why did you cram this lesbian promotional into this movie? And they protested against it, and there was a big thing about it. They protested on it, and the movie got banned in 4 different countries because of they just had to add that that little lesbian ass kissing session. Not that there was actual lesbians, but they had to have their special precious moment to kiss the butt of the LGBT BBQ FYI movement. The LGBT OMG WTF BBQ movement. and it cost them. It cost them. They're finally starting. Hey, guess what? The reason that they've been getting away with all these, even though it's been cutting deep into their pockets, they're still making huge profits with these snowflaked up movies. They still made money off of Ghostbusters 2016. They still made money off of the terrible Captain Marvel movie. They still make money. They can make money off of how do they do it? By shipping them abroad. Even if nobody in America wants to watch the movie, there's probably enough fringe. There's probably enough residual viewers in China alone to make up for anything lost in America. But this time it wasn't working. Because why? Can you say coronavirus? Coronavirus! 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 Has been shutting down. I did that on purpose. The coronavirus has been shutting down pretty much everything all over the world. And Nobody's going to the theaters, especially not in China. They're having to delay their remake. They're having to delay the screening of the remake of why do I want to say Wuhan virus? Mulan. They're having to delay the screening of Mulan. And Mulan was basically, they should have called it Moolah, because that was what they were after. They made a movie that was strict, that they were going to try and make a killing to the Chinese. And surprise, the Chinese aren't feeling up. They're feeling a little bit under the weather right now, and they're not going to the movies. So so surprise, their domestic box office suddenly matters again. And now they can't even, they can't even market onward. I bet you there are several other countries where it's going to bomb horribly because of this, gay advocacy they decided to shoehorn in. Stupid. It was so stupid. It didn't add anything to the movie. It had nothing to do with the story. It didn't, it was a deliberate, you know, it was a deliberate kowtow to the LGBTQ movement. And I hate to break it to them, it's not, the gay community is not where you get your ticket sales. And I don't even think that I don't think gay people even go and see gay advocacy movies. Well, generally because, social movement movies or movies that, have their story, kneecapped for the sake of a social shibboleth, they suck. They brought out Ghostbusters 2016 which was basically an hour and a half feminist drumbeat, boom 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 boom. Look, hey ho ho, the penis party's got to go. You know, nobody wanted to watch it. None of the fans definitely didn't want to watch it because it sucked. And it wasn't like the theaters suddenly got packed out with gleeful feminists. Oh wow, this is the movie we were waiting for. No, they weren't going to watch that movie anyway. Because they weren't interested in the Ghostbusters in the first place. They just wanted to complain about something. And second of all, because the movie that was made, even if they had been into Ghostbusters, it sucked. All they got for all their troubles was a big old smiley sticker, from the NOW group. And even then, they weren't happy with it. Give them 5 minutes, and they found a way to complain about that one too. Good night. Even when they get where feminists, even when they get things the way they want, they're still not happy. It's not extreme enough. It's never enough. Feminists have dedicated their entire lives in philosophy and politics and everything to being the absolute epitome of the unpleasable woman. Rush Limbaugh had it dead right. Feminism was created to give unattractive, undesirable, unpleasant women leverage over the mainstream. And the instant that the feminists even hint that they're happy, that they're content, or that they're satisfied, they lose all their power. Because their only power is the power of complaint. They can't control, they're like the world's most horrible girlfriend. The moment they can no longer complain or gripe or cry or whine and get their man to fall over, as soon as the man doesn't give a shit anymore, they lose everything. As soon as the woman stops complaining, they're convinced that if they ever stop complaining, the man will stop, catering to her needs entirely. So, it's a woman's insecurity manifested as a political movement. In the ugliest, most unpleasant possible way. I'm not going to be nice about it. I don't feel like being nice about it. I don't feel like being nice about anything. Screw it. Hey, it's Eli and T-Mug. It's nearly 11 p.m. where you are. Okay, with my books, but others unfinished and abandoned books, how will you end them? I don't know. This I do not know. These are things I do not know. Heck, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to write for the next chapter. I just realized that I squished them down. Look at it. Look at this. Nip and Tuck are both sort of squished. They're flat. They're short. Don't want no short people. Don't want no short people. Don't want no short people around here. I don't know where I was coming up with that, but I felt it was worth it. Well, there we go. See? I don't know why I did that. I don't know how I did that. I actually managed to shrink them along one dimension. But easy enough to fix. I love, I love this Paint Shop Pro. I do. I'm really angry at the company for them making the next one a pay per month thing. I'm like, you bastards, ripe rat bastards. I might have been a loyal, lifelong customer, but no, you had to pull that crap. I do not rent my tools. Okay? How will I do Mr. Freeze's story? You're assuming if you're talking about in my the ridiculous six story. I have no idea. I don't know if I'll have Mr. Freeze in there. And really, frankly, I don't think his backstory is all that. It isn't that much of a big deal. Let's be honest. He's a villain. Regardless of his motivations, he's a stone cold killer, if you'll pardon the expression. And his backstory may have been interesting for an episode, but it's not of any concern after the fact because he's just become, once no matter how no matter what. Issues you may have, your arguments about being, poor little me, they go out the window once you start killing people to make a point. Wait a minute. Sorry, no. Okay, I'm going to save coloring this. Maybe for next time. Let's give me something to do. La 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 la. La 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 la. I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Diddly doo to hear the oral standing in the row. Doo doo doo. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I've been. I don't know why I'm there. It's unsettling. Eli and T-Mug. Ooh, pardon. Ooh, ha. It's terrible. Okay. He's got a sad backstory, but yeah, the problem is that no matter what, no matter they sort of ran that sad backstory into the ground, because okay, as time went on, his wife was cured, and went on to have a life of her own, and he bid her farewell, and he's. Every chance he was given, even all the way to Batman Beyond, he had issues, okay, and it might have been more believable if he had, I'm sorry, anytime things go bad for him, he resorts to villainy. Come on, it's sort of a moral failing in his character there. So, my sympathy for him is badly strained, to say the least. I'm gonna change the bandages on my legs again. What is this? What is this? Oh, great. I somehow managed to tangle the cords to my headphones with the cords to my earphones, to my bamboo board. Here, just a second. Hate it when that happens. Hate it when crap like that happens. Tangly. All this time, and we still haven't reduced the number of cords behind a computer. Battery-powered thingamajiggies aren't a really good answer, Cordless mice, they have batteries in them, and they run down. Make me a mouse that doesn't need a battery. Make all these things, come up with a way to make a mouse, a keyboard, a drawing pad, and all these other things. Find a way to make them really cordless, as in no battery, no recharge station. Make them so that they don't need it. That would impress me. That would really impress me. But anyway. Let's see. It's 8 in the morning. It's 8! Ah! I'm checking my emails. Just seeing a... Oh, well, great. I've just got now live on your channel, Spleen Squeezin. Thank you. I was aware I was doing something, but I wasn't sure. Oh, have you seen the video? Let's see here. We're gonna watch it. We're probably gonna get copyright dinged for it. Screw it. Live streaming. Let's see if I can get the screen up. Okay. Screen capture. Ah, darn it. There we go. Okay, here we go. This is really worth seeing. Night Runner. Magnum Bullets featuring Dan of Eden. This is the official video by Knights of the Light Table. It's another one by Knights of the Light Table. They also did an animated thing for the Starlight song Starlight Brigade. Whoop. Am I started? Stop that there. Okay. And let's see here. Window capture. Okay. There's an interesting thing is that a very 80s aesthetic. I find it interesting. I noticed this. I don't know how many people else noticed it. The 80s aesthetic of this video is very similar to the Eon Flux aesthetic. You remember the MTV cartoon Eon Flux? It's interesting that both those had and I'm pretty sure looking back on the 80s, their vision of the future was one where everybody was rail thin. Just saying, it's just kind of amusing to think about, but in a heartbreaking, tragic sort of way. And yeah, he's one of the Game Grumps. Yeah, I think I remembered something about that. The guy that did the music was one of the one of the guys from Game Grumps. The Grumps. I'm not so grump. Hey, Game Grumps. Yeah. Interesting career arc. But uh, it gets me is that several of the commenters on the show. The first thing that came out of one of the commenters was, "Oh, they killed his lover." I'm like, why? No, this wasn't a comment by the guy who wrote it, by the way. It was by the comment to the guy, just some random guy. They kid, blah 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 blah, and I came across. I replied, my impression was that the triangle wolf, that circle wolf was his kid brother. That was my impression. He was his younger brother. This is what the sexual revolution has done for us. Left everybody with the premise that you can't really be emotionally or deeply committed or care about anybody unless you're willing to stick your dick in them. Do I have any My Little Pony stories to suggest? Off the top of my head, not really. It's been quite some time since I've done any browsing for My Little Pony stories. There is one Worm My Little Pony story crossover that I've read. It hasn't updated in ages. I think I've already mentioned it. Uh, I think it's called The Power of Epona. I'd have to look it up. Basically, Taylor gets the power to summon little My Little Ponies. It's a very very unusual setup. It is because the protagonist isn't her; it's one of the ponies she summons, and the pony isn't a pony. It's a self-insert character, and it sounds like a very odd setup, but it reads hilarious and adorable too. But can't remember what this is. But it hasn't updated in months, and it looks like it's been abandoned. So I don't know. I don't know whether it's worth the effort of looking it up. Anyway, poop burgers. Okay, well, it's Yes. I wish you all a good night since you're leaving for the night. And okay, it's been 2.5 hours I've been clogging away at this. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it a show, if not a day, a morning. I can't call it a night. It's a morning. It's morning.
It's morning, you slobs. Everybody wake up.
Now, pardon. Oh goodness, pardon. Ooh. I don't burp once anymore. I think it's an old. I think it's an old man thing. You don't just burp once anymore. It's like excuse me. Oh well, there is another one. Anyway, well, I'm gonna wish you all a good night, and I will probably see you again this afternoon because I'm so lonely. But anyway, I'll catch you all later. Please be sure and tell all your friends, have them stop by the website, have them stop by read the comics, have them stop by make commissions, drop donations and pledges and the tip jar. Go to my Ko-Fi. Is it pronounced Ko-Fi or Coffee? I don't know. You can see all the addresses there. There's my email, there's my webpage, there's my Patreon, there's my Ko-Fi, Coffee, Ko-Fi. Why must you torment me so, strange English language? We lived together all these years, and still you stymie me. But anyway, I guess it's good night. You all take care of yourselves, all right? Night-night.